All right, we're here, we're live, we're back for our episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays. I'm your host, Bobby. I'm alone, as always, on this show for one episode. If you've never been on this show before, we basically take a deep dive into one of my lovely martial arts that are up here and talk about it. Sometimes they're old, sometimes they're new, sometimes I have deeper connection to my own martial arts training. Sometimes it has nothing to do, it's just a lot of fun. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but we talk about all of them right here. Today's actually one of my probably one of my most watched. It's not necessarily one of my favorite movies, but it's probably one of the most watched because I became obsessed with one of the specific actors in it, his kicking ability. I watched the movie over and over, mostly because there was a lot of training aspects. I was training for tournaments and kickboxing a lot at the time, and so this movie kind of fit right in. And what am I talking about? I am talking about Best of the Best, starring Phillip Rhee, Eric Roberts, James Earl Jones, and a bunch of other people. Chris Penn, the late Chris Penn. I remember seeing this movie in the theater with my dad. We were probably in the height of our Taekwondo training, and I remember being obsessed with this movie. What year did this movie come out? 1989. So I was just shifting into all my. I was tournament fighting, and I believe around the time I was was training to fight for the North Texas Junior title, and I hurt myself, and then I never got to do it. But just the training and the idea, because this was strictly just like wasn't an action movie from a standpoint of good guys and bad guys. It was just about a tournament and training for this tournament. There was nobody trying to bully anybody. There was nobody that had to be a bad guy. There weren't the stereotypical guys. Now, of course, and you got to see the polar opposites of seeing the Koreans train, and then you got to see the American style training and seeing the differences. And Simon Rhee, who's Phillip Rhee's real life brother, played Daehan on the other side. So getting to see them guys at the time, I didn't know that, but I figured it out. But this movie is filled with some great training montages, some great messages, some great fights. Phillip Rhee's kicking was outstanding, and it made me even more obsessed with kicking. And so I watched this movie religiously. I remember seeing it in the theater. I might have saw it twice because I remember I was going to see it, and then I'm begging to see it again. But I don't remember if we went a second time or not. Excuse me. Because there wasn't a lot of times that my parents would take me a movie more than once. Things like I saw Batman a few times in the theater, but it was the same year, 1989, right? So I had to. So anyway, I want to say I saw it a couple times, but I remember when it came out on VHS, I had to get a copy. I watched it, I rented it all the time. Now I got the DVD. Matter of fact, this DVD copy I have, I don't even think this is the real DVD copy. This looks like a copy from my old VHS before when I was first transferring everything way back. I think this is one that I transferred because I had a VHS collection similar to this. And so when I transferred them all over before buying everything, I think I copied a lot of them because I had the ability to do so. But I want to update it to a Blu-ray because I love this movie. But it's one of those that I had the ponytail thing like Eric Roberts did, where it was long, but it was up here. Mine wasn't long all the way, and then ponytail. Mine was shaved, but then I had the ponytail. Some of that was probably because of this movie. It's great fights. It's great messages. I love seeing the different kinds of fighters. You had Phillip Rhee, who was more the stereotypical Korean Taekwondoist. You had Eric Roberts, who was like the Americanized, but still had some of the same training, was a very well-known fighter, but he dealt with a shoulder injury. I dealt with a shoulder injury, so I was connecting with him. I remember even as I got older, after having my shoulder surgery and everything else, every time I watch this movie, I cringe like, no, oh my God, I remember how that is. Tape it up. Let's go. I've been there, done it many times. Chris Penn was more the brute, kind of had an attitude problem, but he was still kind of friends. I like seeing all the dynamic of the team not really liking each other, but then coming back together, finally becoming a family, working together through heartache and hardships and different dramas. But above all else, the fights at the end of the movie are awesome. They're realistic. They're like a tournament. Sure, there's some Hollywood-esque stuff to it, but it holds up really well. It's a great, great movie. And I would have been happy with just this one movie. Like this movie is the one of all of them that I watch to this day still fairly often. But this was not the end of the franchise. It did fairly well enough that it spawned Best of the Best 2. Now this is yet another one. I think this is another. Yep, this is another one that I've clearly copied from my VHS copy that I had. And but this was more of an action movie. This one changed the tone. The tone was kind of lost. The part of what makes the original one so great disappeared, and then it became just following these characters. Still great action movies. It just didn't have the same straightforward martial arts heart, I guess, if you would. This one, Best of Best 2, has the return of Eric Roberts and Phillip Rhee and even Chris Penn. What I love about this, too, that I connected even more on this one, is I believe he's doing choreo. It's choreo chogi. I think it was choreo. Eric Roberts' son is tested for his black belt in the movie, and they're at a campsite, and he's doing a form that I actually know, and it excited me because I watched him like, oh my God, I know that form. And so I was watching him do it, and I was practicing, and I could sense like I'm practicing for training for the same stuff, and we're kind of on the same journey, even though he's in a movie and I'm here. And that movie really, I'm starting to see things that I'm training in outside of just straight kicks and punches, the forms out in the real world, away from just people I know. Because there's so many variables of forms in martial arts, if you don't know. There's so many different styles and ways of teaching and ways of executing. You take 6 people to do the one form, and everybody will do it slightly different, even if they're from the same school, because everybody moves slightly different, things like this. But there's been instructors that change things, and different things that change, different factions, different systems, different styles, whatever the case is. So to see somebody doing a form that I actually knew on the big screen, it's happened a lot now, but back then it was just awesome. But this one shifts them into the underground fight scene where Chris Penn is fighting in Vegas, I believe it is, for these underground fights with Wayne Newton is like the MC, and there are these underground fights, and something happens, and Eric Roberts and Phillip Rhee have to go in there trying to figure out where he's at because he's missing, and they get involved, and the next thing you know, they have to get in some fights and do some different kinds of training. It keeps the training essence. They even bring back Simon Rhee, Phillip Rhee's brother, Dahan, for some help, and a kind of a surprise thing at the end of the movie. Spoiler. This movie is pretty old, so if you don't know that by now. But it is, again, it has more great fights, but it is a little more of action heavy instead of martial arts heavy. It's martial arts action, but it's more like an action flick. But it's still a great held up. This one was, I remember seeing this one in the theater as well. I don't know if I saw it more than once, but I did have the VHS. And I've watched this one many times too, because it's still great. But it didn't end there. After this franchise, you would have thought that these two kind of ended the franchise. There wasn't much else to tell. What else are you going to do with the same kind of story? Well, good old Phillip Rhee here took it upon himself to keep the franchise alive. And by himself went on to create not one, but 2 sequels that he directed. Did he write them too? He produced them. No, he produced and directed them. So we have Best of the Best 3, No Turning Back. Now this one, he's basically still the same Tommy Lee character. He's visiting his sister somewhere, but he found out that there's these big group of white supremacists that are kind of tormenting this town she's in and whatever. So he ends up meeting a lady, becoming friends, and romantically involved. But he ends up, because he's Asian and the white supremacists are there, he gets thrust into some situations and in turn ends up having to take on the white supremacists. This is a full-on action movie. There's guns, shit fights, there's karate fights, a little bit of everything. Again, another great movie. This is when they started going, I believe, more straight to video. They weren't getting the big screen release anymore, but that's okay. Still have Phillip Rhee laying down the kicks and the punches like only he can. He does some awesome combinations with some throws, takedowns, along with his kicks, punches. He's an amazing martial artist. And I've got to talk to him a few times via interviews and stuff like that. He's a great guy as well. He has another movie that we'll talk about another show. Anyway, so we got Best of Best 3, No Turning Back. This one he takes on the white supremacists. This is a Blu-ray that was released a few years ago by Miramax and Echo Bridge Entertainment. I don't know if Echo Bridge is still around or Miramax for that. But this wasn't all. Phillip Rhee decided to bring Tommy back for one more time. Did he direct this one as well? He surely did. And this time he was actually involved in not only producing, but also the screenplay for this one, for the 4th chapter, Best of the Best Without Warning. This is, again, another straight-up action movie. Excuse me. This one gets a little more into the cops and the... Hold on. Sneeze. Excuse me. This one gets a little more into the cops. That's so unprofessional. With cops and conspiracies and Russians and things like this. The Russian mobsters. You got Ernie Hudson. You got Tobin Bell from Saw. So this time around, it's again a more action heavy. Obviously, a lot of martial arts shootouts, whatever. This is my least favorite, only because it seemed to kind of completely lose essence and start taking Tommy Lee in this area of superhero almost, where how many times is this guy going to get thrown into? The first two made total sense, right? This one, it's a tournament. He's a known thing. He's got a brother that was killed in fighting. He's got drama. He's got a guy he's got to take on to defend his past. We got this whole team is fighting. There's a purpose to the movie, right? The second one is these guys are now friends. The other guy went and found another way to make money because of fighting, because of him winning the championships. And then something bad happened. So this one seemed to have a purpose. This other one, 3, which I love, does feel like, okay, why are you just suddenly in a problem again? But I still enjoy it because it deals with racism and the cultures, and he's kind of what he could very well deal with. This one just turns him into a straight-up action star. And while I still like it, it's not as good as the other ones, but it still exists, and it is what it is. The Best of the Best franchise is one of those that I would so be willing for more entries, especially bringing Phillip Rhee back. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him bring Phillip Rhee back, but also bring back Eric Roberts. I don't think Eric Roberts will do it anymore. I got to talk to Eric Roberts and interview him one time and talk to him a little bit about martial arts. Same with Phillip Rhee. Obviously, Chris Penn passed away, sadly, so they couldn't bring him back. But it'd be interesting to see them maybe return and they're having to train like a new group or something like that. But either way, who knows? These movies, especially that first one, had a real impact on me as a martial artist with my kicking, and I used to mimic and reenact a lot of the sequences and the fights and the throws and do them in class and tournaments and demos and things like this. So I love this franchise. It's a great franchise. Every single one of them are available. I know the last two hit Blu-ray. I'm not sure. I'm kind of assume that these are, at least you can find them on DVD, if not Blu-ray yet. But I'm assuming they've probably been on Blu-ray as well. I haven't searched them out because I had these two, but I need to upgrade them. So you got 4 films: Best of the Best, Best of the Best 2, Best of the Best 3, No Turning Back, Best of the Best Without Warning, Best of the Best franchise, Phillip Rhee as Tommy Lee, Eric Roberts. You got Simon Rhee as Daehan, only in the first 2. But you got Phillip Rhee in every single one of them, and that's all that really matters, because Phillip Rhee is a badass, and he's great to watch on screen. We don't get enough Phillip Rhee, in my opinion, in Hollywood, but he does have another movie that he made that's kind of like a Karate Kid, martial arts kid type movie that he made that we'll talk about on another episode one day. But that's going to be it for today. Best of the Best. Love it, love it, love it. If you're a martial artist, it doesn't matter if you watch the whole franchise. If you're a martial artist, or your kids are martial arts, or you want to just watch a movie that's just kind of straight martial arts, no good guys, bad guys necessarily, no crazy story arcs, and no unbelievable whatevers. The original, you can't go wrong. Best of the Best, Tommy Lee, Daehan, Phillip Rhee, Eric Roberts, Simon Rhee, Chris Penn, James Earl Jones, Darth Vader himself. They're all right here in this little old package for you to check it out. All right, that's going to do it for today for another episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays. Make sure you join us tomorrow for TV Tuesdays with me and the missus. We'll talk about whatever we're watching on TV this week. And then at some point this week, hopefully, I'll get to do a weekly update as well of what's on my mind and desk, and return back for Sunday for another episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live right here on this YouTube channel, as well as over there on our Facebook page as we simulcast. And then right back here on next Monday for an all-new episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays. And please don't forget, keep your hands up, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.